The prevention of radicalization in the prison system was a 13-month initiative of the Budapest Center for Mass Atrocities Prevention in collaboration with Hungarian experts and researchers. Founded by the Internal Security Fund of the European Union, it aimed at contributing to the coordination and improvement of national and international capabilities for preventing and countering radicalization. To that end, it mapped the capabilities of Hungarian prisons to recognize signs of radicalization, as well as to manage and prevent processes leading to radicalization. It provided trainings for prison personnel to further improve such capabilities and conduct so-called life path interviews with prisoners to facilitate their rehabilitation and reintegration.
I think that this polarization is very important from the point of view of the process of radicalization. Once we are able to halt the process of radicalization at this stage of polarization, then we have made a very important step forward to halt and to prevent radicalization and extremism and mass atrocities, what the Budapest Center is fighting against. Today, actually, we try to put in this context this discussion, which is a discussion and the share of best practices among scientists and scholars and practitioners. And in the first panel, we would like to address this issue, the radicalization, the issue of polarization and prevention from various aspects. And the second panel shall be dedicated to the issues of best practices in the field of capacity building, which is more or less focused, will be focused on the prison systems to increase and improve the capabilities also in Hungary and also in other countries.
I will share with you some information about the main findings of the program. The program entitled Prevention of Radicalization in the Hungarian Prison System. In the Hungarian detention centers there are no really prisoners with foreign backgrounds and not really Muslim inmates, so I think in our case, I mean in case of Hungary, this is not the hot potato. I will talk about Hungarian prisoners, and I will talk about the situation where they live, and I will talk about the circumstances where they're coming from, so things like that. Just in the beginning, a few sentences about the methodology, about the background. We were there in altogether 5 detention centers, as you mentioned, and regarding the research methods, we organized focus groups for prison staff, and we organized altogether 15 days of trainings also for prison staff, and we conducted 15 interviews with prisoners. So this is the input, let's say. And we started to work last September, and the last interviews were conducted in May, so a few weeks ago. So it's quite an, let's say, an up-to-date research program. And what is the structure of my presentation? In the beginning, I will tell you, I will share with you information about the findings of the focus groups, and after that I will talk about the findings or experiences of the interviews, and in the end I will talk about the training. We conducted interviews, and we were interested in the conflicts or the debates or the tension that arise between formal and informal groups of the detention centers. So we were a little bit interested in polarization, what you, Sergey, mentioned. So the groups, the us and the them groups. And this is a quite comprehensive list. According to the prison staff, these are the groups that can be described as being involved in various conflicts. I would like to point at the conflicts that arise due to different identities. I would like to highlight the conflicts between the Roma and non-Roma inmates, and I would like to emphasize the conflicts between the so-called Nazi prisoners and the Roma prisoners. So the aim of this kind of, let's say, mapping was to identify the detention centers, I mean the 5 detention centers where we conducted a research program, and we just wanted to understand that what are the groups that are involved in these kind of conflicts. So this was the first stage. The second stage, sorry, it was the third stage, but I will talk about the findings of this stage now. The 15 interviews, these were live vein interviews. It means that, of course, we had an interview guideline and we asked questions, but this kind of method is rather about giving the freedom to the interviewee. I mean, we asked questions about their childhood, about their memories. So we were interested in, let's say, the beginning. So the first group of the prisoners are the ones who can be described as radicalized or polarized. And now I will give you information about these people, about these inmates. So what are the characteristics of these prisoners? First of all, negative personal experience before prison towards specific minority groups, especially the Roma. So we heard a lot of very sad and strange and sometimes frightening stories about from the childhood of our interviewees. Another important characteristic is a very strong sense of national identity. We heard one more time a lot of strange, sad and frightening stories about the past. I mean, we heard a lot of stories about the past of the families of our interviewees. You know, from the 50s, from the 90s, from the 60s. And our interviewees had a really clear impression about the harms that were caused by the Soviet army, by the secret police, by the Hungarian secret police, by the Communist or Socialist Party and the institutions and the people who belonged to this system. And partly, I think, maybe we can understand that this is the reason that these people represent conservative traditionalist system of values, and they do not really belong to the left, or they do not really accept the liberalist values, let's say. And further characteristic of these people: authority, hierarchy, loyalty to values and order. And we managed to identify another typical way, and this is about opposition. So the prisoners who belong to this group, they are a lot of times segregated, discriminated. There is a distance from the mainstream, and they oppose the system. And what does it mean, system? Everything. I mean, microenvironment, family, neighbors, institutions as the police, but even the norms, the prevailing norms, the law, rule of following life path, so everything that belongs to the, let's say, the mainstream. I mean, these people, let's say, arrived at the prison, and our research program was really interested in the circumstances or the factors that can intensify the risk of being radicalized. So the next stage, what is inside the prison? Forced coexistence of different groups inside the prison, that situation fuels further hatred, intensified conflicts. However, if the prison staff is not able to recognize these kind of conflicts, for example, between the Roma and the non-Roma, in this case, problems are really there. And I really hope and I really think, and that this is, yeah, I really believe that our prison staff, I mean in Hungary, would like to react as soon as possible. And quite often they manage to do that. Another factor that intensified the conflicts and thereby the risk of radicalization, tightening prison conditions, especially the ones related to communication with family members. Within the framework of the training, about 40 colleagues, yeah, from the prison staff took part. So I think at least these people have increased knowledge about radicalization and the process of radicalization. And additional circumstance that also, according to our opinion, intensify the conflicts, heavy work burden. It's so funny that we are talking about radicalization and we are talking about jihadis and mass, things like that, and let's say we are talking about the working conditions of the prison staff. Still, I really believe that these two issues are strongly connected to each other. So we were looking for solutions, and there is a I think these are just the most important messages. As these recommendations focus on the working conditions and the prison staff, and only a few of them focus on the prisoners and the inmates. I think this is one of our most important message, that if you talk about radicalization and if you would like to solve somehow this issue, you should focus not only on the inmates, but even on the institution and even on the prison staff as well. And now I just say thank you very much. We work in close cooperation with Budapest Center. I mean, we, it means the 4C Research Group, so this is the reason why or the website or email address is available. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.